you can be a part of this conversation. And just a moment here. How about something called remove from stage? There you go. Whoops, press the wrong button. There you go. I'm Lisa Marie Garcia. I'm with the publishing house called CEO Book Publishing. We've gone through one name change over a year ago now, maybe a year and a half, but we have been publishing books for coming up on 9 years in September. 80 some titles, 80 plus titles, and a couple hundred clients later. We kind of like this industry. And so we're going to be able to ask questions today to our guest, G.S. Gerry, an amazing multiple time author. Ask him about his new book, his latest release called Trust on Trial. So let's bring him up and add him to stage and say, welcome, G.S. Gerry. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.
I'm excited to talk with you and actually talk with you again because it's been probably at least a couple of years, if not longer, that we first met and I had you on this
Yeah.
show, right?
Yeah, it's been a little bit. Yeah.
Well, and for you, with as prolific as you are with writing and publishing multiple books, 2 years is like 20 years to the normal human. So we'll get into
Yeah.
that. But okay, so you know what I really want to just start with, and let me also see if we have any questions in that in the comments. I like to always keep that up because people will ask questions.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat. Hello, chat. Let us know if you have questions. And again, thanks for joining us so early, Gerry, on a Saturday morning. So it's probably your
Oh.
maybe one day. I know you're a big family man with 5 children. Is that right?
Yeah.
Father
Yeah.
of
We have
five.
5 kids. We have two 2-year-olds. So yeah, I mean, he's
Still
usually up
blows
with
my
me
mind.
like 8, 9. So
Yeah, that's true. You probably Saturday's not your day to be able to sleep in probably for a while till
one
they get out of
one
daycare.
one day, one day.
One day, one day. Okay, so what I wanted to do is I want to start with I really, first of all, I know this conversation is going to go by so fast. So I really want to hit some key points because there's so much to unpack here. And I think you have so much to offer to people that are watching that are maybe first time authors or aspiring authors. There's so much that you can add to what they're wondering about since you're a multiple time author and you've been doing this for a few years now. But what I loved about some of the research that I was digging in about for you was you have a great synopsis about your book. So just want to dig in there and then we'll talk about a little bit about your background and such. But listen to this. So first of all, the book is called, I'm going to go back now. I should have done this before we went here. The book is called Trust on Trial. So first of all, you got it right. You got a fantastic book title. You got it right because really the key is to try to find a title that is 3 words. People will go to 4 words, 5 words, and then there's those that go to 15 words. That's not what we like to see. It's not what the industry likes to see, but that Trust on Trial, the three word title was rock star and love it. And so there's the book. And as we look at the book, let me go and I'd love to read the synopsis because I really thought it was outstanding. And I also want to talk about if you are a book author and you don't have a book synopsis that's rockstar, why don't you? With the AI tools in that, you should have it. You should have it handy. It should be postable. It should be something fantastic like this. Trust on trial. You are the jury. So it says, what if trust was dragged into court, charged with fraud, betrayal, and breach of contract? What if your own experiences with broken promises, lost faith, and second chances became the evidence? Trust on Trial isn't just a book, it's a courtroom battle for the ages, where trust himself is on trial and readers hold the power to decide his fate. Through witness testimonies from history, the Bible, and real life, this gripping narrative challenges everything you believe about trust, faith, and redemption. Can trust be restored, or is he beyond saving? Now, that's just 2 paragraphs of this fantastic synopsis, but I love it. And the teaser in there, right? Let me come back to the stream here, is that it's a he. So I would love you, Gerry, if you would talk about how this book came to be, and also please give an intro about when you published your first book and what number of books this is, and just share share the information about, and also when did this book come out?
Yeah, absolutely. So this book came out in early June of this year, so it's still pretty new. It's been out a little over a month, and this book came to be. I was doing a discipleship program at church, and part of that was they're like, "Hey, we want you to write your testimony," and I'm like, "Guys, like I've been in the church a long time. Like I grew up in church. Like this is going to be boring." Guys, like, "No, no, you're going to write it. And it's going to be great." And so I start writing my testimony, and I come to find out that I have trust issues. Right? I know that's it's probably a shock to a lot of people, but like I don't know anybody that doesn't have trust issues, right? And so as I wrote my testimony, I realized that like trust issues turn into faith issues sometimes. And so we have these issues with broken trust. People let us down, they break our trust, especially at a young age. And so I was wondering, how many other people have this problem or this issue, and how many people are being held back because of their broken trust or their misplaced trust in their lives. And so that's really how the book came to be about. And so as I was thinking about the ideas about how to write it, how could I like dig into like trust and trust issues, that's when I came across like this trial aspect. And so it's like, what if I personify trust, like really like turn trust the concept into trust the defendant, put him on trial, and then have all these different testimonies, all this different evidence, as almost like a mirror, right? So like as you go through your life, there's like a number of different scenarios that you're going to go through where your trust is broken. Hey, like dad didn't show up to my baseball game, so like, oh, I don't trust dad. It could be even worse than that. You put your trust in someone, you lend them money, they don't return your money. You put faith in the church lets you down, right? And so there's like 7 to 10 like um, witness testimonies and scenarios in the book that should basically be like a mirror and say like, hey, like that's me, right? Like I've gone through that. I've had my trust broken in these ways. And so what the issue is really it's about where we're placing our trust, and we're placing our trust in failing people, right? Flawed people. No one's perfect, right? Like I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, no one's perfect, right? And so because we're putting our faith and our trust in these, flawed systems, like that's really the issue. And so the goal of the book is really to point people to the one person that they can't trust, which is Jesus. And so that's really what I've been trying to do, and that's what I've been trying to get the message out about the book. That's really the focus of the book. And so if maybe you're not a believer, right? Maybe you don't believe in Jesus, you don't believe in God. There's actually witness testimony in there. I bring an atheist as part of the prosecution to testify with evidence that says like, hey, like God isn't real. And the defense is going to argue to the opposite, and they're going to bring their counter arguments. So it's kind of twofold here. Like it's for the non-believers, but it's also for the believers, because whenever you say, oh, I trust God, but how much are you trusting God, right? We should be fully entrusting our entire lives to God. And so I realized that some of our trust issues lead to how we see God, right? If, God's our father and we didn't have a good father, well, then maybe that's going to, skew our perception of what God really is, how good he actually is, because we're viewing him through our lens.
So you're really digging into, and I had up your website just so as people can watch this, they can dig in. It's gsgerry.com, so very easy website to learn more about you and about the book. But what I love about this book is, as you said, it is on trial. So you're examining, the concept of trust from different angles, and really dig in there in a very, intriguing, interesting way through your writing. So I just congratulations, and you
Thank you.
are a new author for this release. And so now, just as you know, the journey just begins with this particular book. So um,
Yeah.
so happy for you in that
Thank you.
respect. So tell us, what I was thinking about with you. So what number of books is this? How many books have you released now with Trust on Trial?
So I've fully written 3 books, as you know, as part of an anthology for another book. So I've been a part of 4 books. Last year, I was part of an anthology for Lisa's company, for her publishing company. And so that one was Leaving Stronger Than You Started. And I got to write about teenage pregnancy. I had my first kid when I was 19, so still a teenager, still pretty young. And so now here I am about to start 39, and I have 5 kids. So
I love. Thank you also for being in that book, and it isn't, leaving stronger than you started. We had a great release last September. Has it been a year now? I think so, almost.
almost, yeah.
Right, almost a year. And what is wonderful about the chapter that you contributed is you really take us through your journey from, I think, what, 17 years old on.
Yeah,
Would you
something
say?
like that.
yeah, somewhere in there, and a teenager to now, and you'll really find very interesting what your background is. So, as you said, four-time author now. Have you always wanted to write books? Has it always been in you? Tell us.
Absolutely not. No. So I never had any aspirations or dreams of writing. I was like the kid who watched movies to do their book reports in school, right? Like I played a lot of sports and had a lot of friends. So like I don't got time to read. And so like this was never like some kind of aspiration that I had. It just kind of happened to me, I'll say. And so whenever we went to sell our house in Colorado, there's this crazy situation that happened. And I joked around like, hey, I'm going to write this book. And so my first book came out in 2022. And yeah, it was kind of like an inside joke. And then here I am 4 books
And
later, and I have an idea for a fifth one.
share the title of your very first debut book. So
Oh,
I'll
yeah. My first book is Meth, Murder, and Amazon. And so it's like the world's worst real estate transaction.
I should have put I'm going to put it here, Meth, Murder, and Amazon. That book, that title, again, you're awesome with the titles. You've got it down with the book covers. Those are some basics that some authors unfortunately miss. I've seen book titles, like we said, that were, I mean, exaggerating to say they're 15 words, but I've seen book titles of 7 or 10, words. And then there's a subtitle, and then I've seen, well, I'm sure you've seen them as well. We've even had offline conversations about covers and the importance of a book cover. And I've seen some
Yeah.
awful ones, and I feel sometimes so bad because I love and respect and think the person that has this awful book cover is so great, and it's really a difficult conversation to have.
Yeah.
Talk about, how you came to understand that part of the marketing of a book, both the book title and the cover, please.
Yeah, so the the title for Meth Murder and Amazon, like I felt like it was a really strong title, and just so like the listeners are aware, like you have to be careful what you include in your titles because my book got banned. I would actually
Right.
make social media posts with Meth Murder and Amazon, and I would get banned by like Instagram and Facebook, and they're like, "Hey, this is like fake news, blah blah blah." I'm like, guys, this is a real book. Like this isn't like I'm not promoting drugs. I'm not saying Amazon's like sending meth and murdering people, right? I was like, this is an actual book. So this was like 2 months that this kept happening. I would make a post on Instagram and I would get banned, and I would make a post on Facebook and it would get banned. And so finally, like they just let it go because I sent like so many emails like, hey guys, like this is just a joke. Like don't take it so serious. And so then it won some awards, and then they really like they haven't banned it since. But like you're so right. The title is so important. You got to be careful what you put in there too. Like I said, Left Murder Amazon, I think it's a great title, but obviously it got banned because some of the words in there. So like you still even got to be aware of that. But then the cover, right? I mean, they say don't judge a book by our cover, but absolutely we do. Like how many
Yes.
great books are out there with terrible covers, and so people are like, oh, the cover doesn't matter. You have like 3 seconds to capture their attention. And if you're not a book cover designer, if you're not a designer at all, like don't try to do it yourself. Go
No.
find good people that know what they're doing. Like I had a friend who was an artist who did my original cover, and I liked it. And then people were like I love your cover, but it doesn't make sense for the book. So then I found another guy who revamped the cover, and it's so much better. It speaks to what the book's actually about, and so that's kind of part of it. Like people should see your book and understand, like, hey, I'm about to read about this, or I'm about to get into this kind of story.
Well, a couple points on that. Let's stay on that for a little bit. So important, like you said, the book that, judging a book by your cover, by its cover. Yes, you do. We do. There's something called the anatomy of the sale, and I'll take my clients through that. So I want to take the viewers or the listeners and viewers through that as well. But in just a moment. But the other point is, and not only is the cover important, what is trending in the marketplace is important to stay on and identify and watch. And how you do that very simply, and this is what we do, and what I personally will do is you go to a brick and mortar store, they do still exist, and you also go online and you look at the books in the genre that you're writing to that are
Yeah,
hitting best selling status, that do have the shelf space and the table awareness, because that's what a buyer, a reader is walking into a store, they're going to be drawn to those books, besides other reasons that become bestsellers. But you need to see what's trending. We're publishing a couple fiction books, starting with the republish of a fiction book right now. And that's exactly not always in the fiction genre. Most of what we publish, as you know, is nonfiction. We happen to have, I
yeah,
think, 3 or 4 books now in fiction right now that we're releasing soon. But I went in there and just, some of the changes, some of the trends I noticed, even the interior trends, have been changing. And so, you never know what you don't know, right? So, like you said, hire
Yeah.
experts for your book cover and dig in. And then the other part of it is the anatomy of the sale. There is a process by which someone comes in that says they want to buy a new book, and it's like five things. Let's see if I remember this. Have I had enough coffee? Let me have a little drink. Kidding, but I wanted a drink anyway, so there was my excuse. So the first thing is, taking a look at the book cover. Does the book cover grab the potential buyer? If it does, they pick up the book. Then the second step is they turn the book over. They read the back of book blurb. Does it interest them? Is it this rock star blurb, just like you have the rock star synopsis? Trust on trial and it's a he. Okay, I'm a little interested. Number three is
Mhm.
they turn the book over and they look in the table of contents. So number three is, okay, let me look in a little bit more and see, do the chapter table of contents catch me? And what I tend to see a lot is I see people not really understanding that third step where they will just put chapter one, chapter two, chapter three. That's almost like, fingernails on a chalkboard for me, because you
Yeah.
really have that. That's your option to have some, unique chapter names and maybe some teasers in there for subtitles. So that's what am I up to? Three. See, I'm going to forget now that I said, well, I remember. Now I'm going to forget the third and the fourth. Um, I think it's just that then they'll read a chapter. And so that's also where the book matter at the beginning of the book is important. Not
Yeah.
just for I'm, realistically opening a, physical book, but as you know, when your book is published online, I think Amazon, does Amazon let you pick? I'm asking you. Do they let you pick the number of pages or what pages you can preview, or is it just so many pages that you can preview?
I think it's so many pages. I think it's usually like the
Yeah,
first chapter, maybe sometimes it really depends. But yeah, it's usually like that first like opening little bit of the book.
right.
It's not like 3 or
So
4 chapters. Like it's smaller than that. And I
yeah,
think Barnes and Nobles do something similar too.
yeah, and I think there's some others. Thank you for that. I think there's some other onlines where you can actually pick the sample. I think if you do Bean and Prince, you can pick the sample. So what we're talking
Okay.
about really is just this idea that, um, is what is the sample that people are reading? And are they reading your dedication and thanking your family? And are they reading maybe some other book matter that's not going to grab them? Make sure that in the beginning of your book, you have book matter that grabs them. But definitely, and I know that I forgot the last one, but basically, though, that book cover is the very first step that grabs someone to even take a look at it or just pass it by and look at other books. So super important, and you've done a great job on that.
Thank you.
Let's come back to some questions for you. So I wanted to ask you, because this comes up quite often, especially where you're a four-time author now. How do you deal with writer's block or even writer's fatigue? I mean, I know there's two different things. Do you have one more than other? Have you experienced them both or not? Kind of share that for people out there that are struggling with that. They've got maybe half their book written and it's kind of stalled.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have a book that I was like 90% done with, and then I did the Trust on Trial book, and I just sat, and so I actually just started opening it again and starting to update it and revise it. For writer's block, for writer's fatigue, right? Like I feel like getting outside, and so I actually heard this statistic the other day, and it said that go take a walk, and it'll actually get the creativity flowing, but not for necessarily the reason you might think, but when you walk and you walk for X amount of distance, it actually engages both sides of your brain. And so you're actually using both sides of your brain when you go walking. And that's why you have so many different creative ideas, so many different things about creativity when you're walking. And so it's like, man, I didn't even know that. I just knew when I went on walks, like I had all these deals pop into my head. And I was like, oh man, like, this is great. I take walks with my family all the time. And so then I heard this study. I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. No wonder why when I walk, I think about all these different things. So like get out and walk. And then like set aside like a specific time block for yourself. So like, hey, I want to write 2 hours a day, and I'm 50% done. I got to get the rest of it done. Set aside 2 hours of your day and just write, right? Like it doesn't have to be perfect, but get something down, because you write it and then you step away and then you come back to it and then you read it and then you revise it and then you write it. And it's just a continual process until you're like, this is there. now I can send it to the editor. And so that might be something you're going to talk about, maybe not, but right. Like I was definitely on the side, like, hey, I'm not going to use an editor because I write like not necessarily a traditional way. I have my own way of writing books. I've changed my tune, so I definitely use editors now. So yeah, definitely find a good editor. Like there's a lot of them on LinkedIn. I know you have great editors too. So depending on what route you go, whether it's self-publishing or traditional publishing, you definitely need an editor.
I love that you added that. I want to go back to your time blocking and the physical aspect of creativity, but it is something and actually something that we hear and actually we gain clients because of the fact that they did not use an editor the first time and were redoing some first books for some authors that are okay, they're decent, but maybe they
Yeah,
had like a English teacher that they knew or their wife, or they just, felt like they were a great writer, and it's not that they weren't a great writer, it's just that there's a very specific a skill of an editor, and there's no,
yeah,
no question about it. And, and actually I want to dig into a little bit of your background, your professional background. I think it will shock some people, but you have a tech professional background with a master's degree and such, but you don't have an editing background. And so
that's
many
right.
times many times we hear that, and that, oh, I need an editor, I need a professional editor. And
Yeah.
so thanks for bringing that up. That's a very good point. The other part that makes sense, where, for me, some of my most creative ideas come when I'm in the shower or I'm playing
Uh-huh.
sports, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I think I haven't heard of that study, but it does make sense that you have both sides of the brain engaged. And just the idea, and that's one of the reasons, in fact, I have sports later on today. Saturday is my big sport day. But I think that's, part of the reason of why I love sports is you kind of let everything wash away. I'm not thinking about work. I'm not thinking about clients. I'm not thinking
Yep.
about manuscripts, right? And so my mind can just go where it needs to go. So I love that, take a walk, go out, refocus. Don't be, trying to force something when you don't feel like writing another chapter or you don't know what else to finish a chapter up. That's great advice. And then what you said, the time blocking, 100%. And how we do it, we actually call it BIC. You might remember this a little bit, but we call it BIC, which is called butt in chair. And that means, put it in your calendar. It's how I learned to write my first book. That was with another publisher before I got into publishing 100 years ago. And, they made me time block time that I was in front of my computer, that I would not get up out of my chair, and I would work on my book. But here's the fun part. So I had to adhere to that time, but I didn't have to write chapters in my book. If I didn't feel like writing, then look at book covers, Google some research from my book, just do anything book related for that time. And I did. And that is helpful. And if you don't block it out, we're all busy professionals. Those of us that are still working, we know it won't happen, right? And we
Yeah.
make
And
priority what's priority.
I
Go
mean,
ahead.
there's also another like thing I could suggest. Like this might sound crazy to some people, but this is what I do. I actually write the entire first draft on my mobile phone. So everybody has a phone; it's in their hands, right? Like get that thing out, get the notepad out, and just start like typing it out. You might not be a fast typer, but like changing up the mechanism that you're actually writing your book can actually help you kind of direct where you're going to go. So right, like it's not going to be perfect when you write it on your phone, but you'll get your thoughts out, you'll get your ideas out. You might even have a great flow. And so once you are ready, like, hey, this is now draft ready. Now I can plug it into whatever tool or solution or word editor I want to use. Then it's already there. You just email yourself, upload it, and then you type it, and you're like, oh man, I missed all these like issues. I missed this grammatical issues because I was on my phone. Now I'm on a big computer screen. So like just using different things like that can also like help keep it going because you're always on your phone. They say like be close to the data, right? So how much closer can you be when it's in your hands?
Thanks for reminding me, because I remember you telling me that's how you write your books, and I'm like, wow, that's a new concept. So that's fantastic. So we're getting to the end, but I do have a question here from Winston Garcia, and he says, as an immigrant, one of the most toughest trials we face is not only adapting to a new culture, but also redefining our professional worth in a labor market that doesn't always recognize our past credentials or experience. In your view, how can someone rebuild trust in themselves and invite it from others when their value isn't immediately seen or validated in their new environment? So it's kind of a deep question. I'm going to give you. I'd like you to uh, answer it, please.
Yeah, of course. So, he touched on like his past credentials and his past experiences, right? Like that kind of makes you an expert. So just because like you're not from this country doesn't mean you don't have different backgrounds, different credentials, right? So you from in a other country that you're coming from, right? You might have all these credentials, right? That's absolutely food for what you're going to write about. And so as you're saying, hey, my name is Winston Garcia and I write about these types of books and my background is this, right? It doesn't matter that your background is here or it's from a different country. That's your expertise. And so if you're writing and using that expertise, right, that's going to just build more credibility. And then maybe English isn't your first language, and maybe that's part of the issue, right? That's why it's so important to have an editor, so important to have a network of people that'll say, hey, like I'm writing this book, can you help me? Like there's tons of people out there that will happily just offer to like, oh yeah, I'll read that, like send me a sample, I'll read that. Like I'll be like that, right? Like you don't always have to pay someone. It never hurts to like ask. But you also have to trust in yourself, right? And so I feel like there's this fear of failure that people have when you're going to write a book. And so like honestly, I just feel like, you know what, I don't care. I'm writing this book. This is what I'm going to do. And if people don't like it, they don't like it, right? Like, of course, there's going to be naysayers out there. And the people that always have something to say are the people that never write books or never put anything out there for people to consume. So, like, you got to deal with the good and the bad, right? But who's the book for? What are you writing about? And what's the purpose of it? You can really reframe your thinking around that, then the fear of what someone else is going to say is probably going to take a back seat, because really it's not about what the negativity is out there, but how positive the book's going to be about, or what the message of the book is going to be about, and what you're trying to really share. So
Great
I
answer.
think when you reframe it like that, and just think about that, right? Like, your expertise is everything that you have combined and collected throughout your whole life. So whether that's here or a different country, right? Like use that, especially if that feeds into like, hey, this is the topic I'm writing about and it pulls from that background, then absolutely, right? Like that'll actually make your writing better, because people will see like, hey, this guy writes these types of stories, and look, he's been doing this for 50 years, and he immigrated from this other country, and look at all these things he went through. So your story actually might be better because you're from another country and you've gone through things that we in America have never gone through. So it's just about really
Absolutely.
reframing it.
It's about reframing, and it's about also not caring about the naysayers, right? Squeaky wheel is sometimes a negative wheel. Most of the time, we hear about the bad. So I always think about, you get one negative, you probably have hundreds of positive. They just didn't tell you.
Yeah,
The comments,
it's all
but you
about
also reminded
perspective.
me. It is. And one of my favorite, somebody gave me this advice years ago, you kind of touched on it, is don't take constructive criticism from someone that hasn't ever constructed anything. So like you
Yeah.
said, they probably haven't written a book, so don't worry about that. So I knew this was going to go by fast. We've got a couple minutes. What are your plans for next? What are you doing that you want to share as far as promotion? I was going to ask you if you have any more books planned. You already sounds like you have one in draft, so
I
you're not
do.
stopping here. Share with what you want us take away. We have your website, G.S. Gerry on Just on Trial. Take us out, so to
Yeah,
speak.
absolutely. So, like Lisa said, I have this new book, Trust on Trial, and kind of something that's unique about this book is you're the juror, and you can actually go vote on my website. So you're going to get to a part in the book where you review all the evidence, and now it's going to say, hey, you want to cast your verdict, go to this link, and so you can actually vote: is trust guilty or is trust not guilty? Based on that verdict, you will then read the corresponding chapter. So it's really a choose your own path kind of story. You can read both options if you want, right? But I did try to make it, kind of separate, so each verdict is really specific to what you read. So that's kind of one unique aspect. I really like to engage the readers in different ways, kind of create a new experience, if you will. And so, this is a fun one. This next book I'm writing, it's kind of complete opposite. So I'm talking about trust and faith here. Like this other book is about a serial killer who leaves nursery rhymes at his crime scenes. And so it's like humorous. It's like kind of like a play on like the serial killer psychological thriller genre, but not super gory. Really funny, really interesting, and there's like a great family dynamic between the killer and his mom, who's like his accomplice. So
You are so creative, and we have to end now conversations. I knew this would be an amazing conversation. Gerry, thank you for all that you put out in the world in book publishing, and thank you all for listening to Now Conversations. Join me next Saturday.
yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.